Okay, so one of the things that is not in the manual is this. Most of the jobs will have typical groups, so it may be a good idea to use them. So if I open this typical group, it brings me to unit 2D, and I have these conditions related to openings, whether they are storefronts, SF, or windows, or door types. I also have a line, which really doesn't do anything, but I use that line to make notes. So A15, good enough. I found this easy enough to be used. I can describe the type of the opening if it is described, like this is a sliding door. See, these windows don't have anything, so I'm not going to be able to describe them, but for the sliding door I can say A15, and I have to use actual linear condition. I cannot do one of these lines, annotation marks. They're not gonna be transferred to the typical group, but the line will be. So I'm using the line. If I go back to the floor plan, see that A15 shows up in all copies of that typical group. So just a little heads up, just a little idea. You don't have to necessarily use the same description. You can make whatever marks you may like, as long as you can figure out what they mean. So you can do, you can do a little plus sign, or I don't know, a little square, or even define your own count conditions and use them. The bottom line is that you should be using the typical groups to multiply and populate all the labels for openings. So once again, I just went back to the floor plan and all those marks show up. So when I'm doing the door types or window types, it would tell me right here what it is, and I would just pick the right opening. So that's that. Okay, so after we added all openings to exterior walls or exterior type of walls, which could be, standard green exterior walls. It could also be breezeway walls if there are open corridors open to weather. Then this would not be a corridor wall, but it would be a breezeway wall. It would be exterior type. We would be tracking openings in that type of wall as well. We wouldn't worry about garage walls, because typically there are no openings in those, or basement walls. So after we added all openings, what we need to do is to get two sets of numbers. One will be without openings applied. The other set will be with openings or opening deductions applied. So to do that, we need to go to opening conditions. So I'm just going to open them and go to advanced conditions or condition properties. And there's nothing here, nothing on this line, but starting with this door, there's an option to back out quantities from parent, meaning we can deduct the opening size from the wall into which the opening has been applied to. So the first set of numbers should be without any deductions, meaning we do not want to back out, and this option should be unchecked. So let's just go through all of these conditions. I'm clicking next through all of them and making sure that none of them is highlighted, none of them is enabled, none of them is checked. Looks good. So we're going to go to takeoff tab. We're going to collapse all. We're going to sort by name of the area. That was sorting number one. And then also we're going to sort within we're going to sort the conditions within each area alphabetically. So that was, I clicked here for the first time and clicked over here for the second time. So let's look for building 8. Building 8. And let's just expand only the sections, the areas that pertain to building 8, which are these here. Building 8 roof. Okay, so let's just pick all of them, including the area names. So I'm just going to highlight all of these expanded conditions. We need to make sure that we highlight all columns, including the first one. Looks like we did that. So I'm going to right click and go copy, and then I'm going to go to the Excel sheet where this is these are old numbers. I don't need them, so I can just delete all of this. And in this Excel sheet, I have 2 columns. One says original, one says deducted. Also to be noted, this particular Excel sheet, spreadsheet, will work, as the name suggests, will only work for sets of numbers that have been grouped by area assignment. So if you're copying and paste, if you're copying from on-screen takeoff and pasting to Excel, you need to make sure that what you're copying is actually has been sorted by area assignment. It's not going to work for any other groups of numbers. We can show, I'll show later what would be different scenarios, but for this particular Excel, it needs to be sorted by area assignment. So we have that, and we're going to paste on line 3. Line 3 is the first line where we want to paste what we have copied into clipboard. So I'm just going to highlight this original column, line 3, and go Control V, which is paste. So I have a set of numbers without any opening deductions. So now I have to go back to on-screen takeoff right here and go to Image tab. And now we're going to have to go through the list of conditions again, but this time we're going to enable the backout. So basically, we're going to be deducting all the openings from their parent condition, so from the exterior walls. So bear with me. I'm gonna enable all these, and after I'm done, I'm gonna go through the list again and make sure that all of them were enabled, because usually you skip a one or two conditions, and that's no good. We need to make sure that all of them have been enabled. Also, see, I'm clicking over here on that check mark and then hitting next. You can also, instead of clicking next, you can press Control and page down on your keyboard, and it'll do the same thing. It'll move forward to the next condition. So, okay, so I'm gonna go through the list again and make sure that all of those conditions have the backout quantities option checked. And looks like they do, so that's good. I'm gonna go to Takeoff tab, and once again, I'm gonna collapse all. I'm gonna sort by area and sort alphabetically. That's very important. So now I can just expand building 8. Building 8. Building 8, 4th floor. 5th floor and roof. Okay, good. And we're gonna select the same columns again, except this time the openings should be deducted from the parent condition. So copy, switch over to Excel. This time I'm going to go to line 3, but the deducted column, and go Control V. Okay, so that's that. We successfully copied the original quantities and deducted quantities. If I look, for example, at this exterior building 4C, there should be difference in the quantities. So, okay. So before the opening deduction, there was 114 square feet. After the deduction, there was 66 square feet. So it seems to be working. Let's take a look at a different one. Okay, so 64, 35, 42, 48. So you can make a quick check and make sure that you actually got two different sets of numbers. That's always a good idea. Okay, so we have two sets of numbers, and let's talk about the Excel sheet. So this is Mito internal spreadsheet. It's nothing fancy, but it works. So let's use that. There are functions predefined. They're hidden in row number 2. So right here, row 2, column A, there's a function there which compares the names in original column and names of conditions in the deducted column. The purpose of that is to make sure that we are comparing apples to apples. Basically, we need to make sure that the way we paste it in here for original quantity is the same way we paste it for deducted quantities, that there is the same order of conditions. So I'm going to highlight A2, which is a cell where I have predefined function called exact, and it's comparing two cells. Pretty boring stuff. Anyway, while it's highlighted, I'm gonna pull on that bottom right corner and just extend the function all the way down to the last item in my list. So, okay, what happened was Excel is now telling me that all names in basically column C and column O are the same entries, same names. So if for whatever reason there was a discrepancy, like we can do here, I can change this name to something else, go above. See, right away Excel will highlight that cell and say, hey, there's a problem, there's something different. So let me change that back to what it was, ABV. So you need to see trues. This column A needs to say true all the way through. It's a funny thing. So that's number 1. Number 2, there is a function hidden in here in the L column. So again, I'm going to highlight L2, which is a cell which has a function predefined, and all I have to do is pull on the bottom right, oops, it's flying all over, and just copy all the way to the bottom of the condition list. So as you can see, what it is doing is it's basically looking at this quantity right here and this quantity there. If there is a difference between them, it'll figure out the difference and it will highlight the cell. So there's a 48 square foot difference between this 114 and 66. So that was step number 2. We did column A, we did L, and now we need to get the results, which are right here in the column AB. So again, I highlighted a row 2, column AB, that cell with the function, and I'm going to pull on that bottom right corner to copy that function all the way through, and it's not working. Yeah, okay, sorry. There's one other function right here, opening factor. Okay. Oops, I went a little too far. Okay, so I went a little too far the first time. You need to go to Z column first. So basically, we started with column A, then we did L, right? Here's A, then we did L, then you go to Z, the opening factor, and then you go to AB. We're still doing the same thing. We'll highlight the second row and pull on this little handle at the bottom right and just copy that function all the way through. And that's it. We have opening factors for conditions where there was a difference in the quantities before and after opening. Okay, so the last thing is that we don't want to see all the quantities with zero difference, zero quantity difference. So what we'll do there is we're going to click on this arrow and apply a number filter. And it's going to be a custom filter. So we want to show rows where the difference does not equal 0. Those are the red ones. Or it's greater than 0. Because, okay, so here's what we're doing. If show rows where difference is greater than 0, so, sorry, those are the red ones. Here's 48, that's the difference, it's greater than 0, so it'll show that line. But also, we want to show the titles of the area assignments, which is line 3, line 14, line 31. If you look closely, you'll see that there's no number difference. The formula in this L column makes sure that it doesn't put any number to the titles, and we're using that fact now. So I want to say that where the difference does not equal 0, okay, basically an empty cell, I want to see that line as well. So custom auto filter is does not equal 0 or is greater than 0. I'll click OK, and boom, there it goes. So we basically have, what we're left with is the area assignment names, very important for Gen. We have conditions that have different than 0 differences, which is what we're looking for. And at the end of the line over here, we have the opening factors. So basically, for example, this line, this line 8, there was 114 square feet to begin with. After applying openings, there were only 66 square feet. And the difference, the ratio, is 0.5789, whatever. You know, that's a little too precise. So that's just the opening factor. It's telling me that after we applied openings, only 57.89% of the quantity will be needed, because the rest of the, 50, whatever it is, 42% some is the actual openings. But we also need to apply the wall framing factor. So as you can see, there's a little note there. It says 0.85 for 16-inch on center and 0.9 for walls framed 24 inches on center. So those two numbers are for wood framed construction. If we are dealing with metal framed construction, then this factor, the yellow cell factor, would actually be 1.0, meaning we would not be deducting anything for metal framed walls. Right now we have it set to 0.85. In other words, we are deducting additional 15% from the opening factor, we're deducting additional 15% due to the framing, due to studs being 16 inches on center and each stud being 1.5 inches thick. So a quick demonstration here. If I change this to 1, see then these numbers are actually the same. If I change it back to 0.85, 85, then I applied the opening factor first and stud factor on top of that. And this is it. We're done. So quick recap. We did functions in A, functions in L, functions in Z and AB. So, whatever they were, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then we hid the conditions that we were not interested in. That's it. That was the arrow here, the custom number filter. And the last thing we did was we looked at this yellow cell, which is 0.85 for 16 inches on center wood framed, or it is 0.9 for 24 inches wood framed, or it is 1.0 for metal frame. That's it. You save this. You save it with job name, date when you got it, when you created this file. You send it over to Jen. We're done.